are with our homework review for 4-2 and 4-3. Number 2, our directions here say write as a numeric expression and then compute. So we are getting an answer here. We have no variables in these 3 problems, so we're able to do that. In number 2, please note that comma. So it says 9 minus 6, which would be in parentheses because of that comma, and then multiplied by 7. When we think about our order of operations, it tells us to do what's in the parentheses first. So we're going to do that subtraction first and then multiply it by 7. So our answer there would be 21. Number 4 says 20 subtracted from 68, comma. So we know that's going to be in parentheses. Subtracted from means it's actually going to be 68 first and then minus 20. That's in parentheses thanks to that comma. And then we are going to divide this by 12. So this would be our numeric expression, and now we can go ahead and solve this. 68 minus 20 would be 48. 48 divided by 12 would be 4. So number 4, the answer is 4. Go figure. Number 6, we have 27 times the sum of, oh, and here's where our 3 and 5/10 and 1100s came from. So we have 27 times, what is next? The sum of, so I'm going to put that in parentheses, 3 and 5/10 and 1100s. So here is our numeric expression. We can go ahead and add these now and say this is 3 and 6100ths, and we are going to multiply that times 27. So we do that. Count up how many decimal places we have in our problem, which is just the 2 in our first number. So we'd have 2 in our answer, and our answer would be 97 and 47 hundredths. There you go. All right, moving on to the next section. The directions there say write as an algebraic expression, use n as your variable. So anywhere we don't know the value, we're going to be putting an n, and that might look like a number, and then you know to put n in there, or it might be some value that we don't know. So the first one, number 8, says 1/4 of a number, comma. So we have 1/4 of means times a number, so we have 1/4 times n, and then a comma, and then it says increased by 17. So we're going to add 17 to that. We don't necessarily need parentheses here, even though there was a comma, because our order of operations would tell us to multiply before we add. If you prefer to just put those parentheses in, that's perfectly fine. It does not hurt anything. And remember, you can also put the dot in there for multiplication if you want to, but you don't need to because we have a number times a variable. When they're smushed together, that means multiplication. Number 10 says 8 added to a number, comma. So that means we are going to put 8 plus n in parentheses, and then after a comma it says multiplied by 2. So we're going to take what's in these parentheses and we're going to multiply it by 2. Again, you don't really need that dot because a number beside a parenthesis means multiply, but you can put that in there if it helps you to see it better. The last one for 4-2 is number 12, which is the quotient of a number squared and the difference of 5 and 9/10 and 7. So this one is going to end up looking like a fraction. On the top for our numerator, we have the first part is when you have the quotient of whatever comes first is your numerator. That's going to go on the top. So the first kind of hunk of this, the quotient of a number squared. So a number would be n, and squared means we're going to have an exponent of 2. The second part of our quotient, so it's the quotient of a number squared, and is where this would be, the difference of 5 and 9/10 and 7. So when you have the difference of, that means the second thing is going to go first. So it's 7 minus 5 and 9/10. That would be your answer to number 12. We have all 3 of these now, and we are ready to move to section 4-3. 4-3, I ask that you do 2 to 10 even. The first section here says evaluate each expression. Remember, because they're algebraic expressions, they're going to have to tell us what those variables equal. So if they don't, we can't really solve it at all. So we know they are in fact going to tell us what x, y, and z are here. So they tell us x equals 3, y equals 8 and 8/10, and z equals 4. Now what we can do is go ahead and substitute in for x, y, and z. So anywhere there's an x, we're putting a 3. Anywhere there's a y, we're going to put 8 and 8/10, and anywhere there's a z, we're putting a 4. Next thing we need to do is think about our order of operations. So order of operations tells us to do what's in the parentheses first. And then it says to do your exponents. So remember that 4 squared is not 4 times 2. That's the common pitfall there. 4 squared means you're multiplying whatever your base is. So we're multiplying 4s. Your exponent tells you how many of those you have to multiply. So it tells us that we have 2 4s. So 4 times 4 would be 16. Order of operations next says you're going to multiply and divide left to right. So we're going to start on the left and go until we find multiplication or division. So this is what we're doing next, which would be 2 and 2/10. Finally, we are going to add 16 plus 2 and 2/10, and we get 18 and 2/10 for our answer to number 2. Number 4, we have D, E, and F for our variables, and they of course are going to tell us what D, E, and F are equal to. So they tell us that D equals 8, E equals 45, and F equals 2. Now I'm substituting in for all of my variables, and now I can go to my order of operations. So that says I need to do what's in my parentheses first. Within my parentheses, I don't have any other parentheses. I don't have any exponents. I'm going to start over here, look for multiplication and division, and I need to do 95 divided by 9 first. And now I can move on and do 8 plus 5. Oh, I feel like I should know this. 169. Next up, we have this multiplication over here. Oops. And finally, our subtraction. And I get 141 for my final answer there. Guys, there's a lot of math involved in here. A lot. So if we were doing classwork or if we were doing a test on this, I would definitely do partial credit for these. There's a ton that's going into this. If you make a silly mistake here and say 8 plus 5 equals 11, and you put 11 here, but you did all the other math right, you would get most of the credit. So don't put too much weight on whether or not you're getting 141. I would love for you to get 141, but if you made a mistake somewhere up in here, that's going to carry down through. So if you can just figure out where your mistakes are on these problems, correct those, and then it should all fall into place. Moving on, we are going to number 6. And these are the problems where you're asked to combine like terms. So I'm going to show you what that looks like for all of these problems. You may have not combined like terms, so you may have done it by just substituting in for the variables, and you may get the right answer. But I'm going to actually show you how to combine like terms because it does simplify the process and kind of streamline your work. So when we look, we're trying to find anything with the same last name. So we have two terms that end with X, just regular old X. So we can combine those. So again, you're thinking of, okay, I have 6 X's in this hand. Back to those refrigerator magnets. I have 6 X's in this hand and I have 7 X's in this hand. So how many X's do I have altogether? I have 13 X's. So now I can substitute for X. And I work my order of operations now and say I have 34 hundredths times 13. And I'm going to add those up. How many decimal places did I have in my problem? I put that many in my answer. So I have 4 and 42 hundredths plus 14, which will be 18 and 42 hundredths. My final answer for number 6 is 18 and 42 hundredths. I'm going to go ahead and erase that one because these, if you didn't notice, get kind of long. Gone are the days where you can leave one line for your answer in your homework. So I know some of you still went through and numbered everything. Hold off on doing that. Do the problems kind of number as you go. If you're someone who needs to write out all the numbers so you know how many you have, what I would suggest is write all the numbers across the top of your paper and then you could cross them out as you go to make sure that you don't miss any. So on to number 8, we have 7m squared plus 3m squared plus 2 and m equals 3. We have two terms that have the same last name. They both have m squared for the last name. So when that happens, we're just adding up our coefficients, our numbers in front of our variables. So we're going to say, well, you have 7m squared and we have 3m squared. If I add them up, now I have 10m squareds. And we still have that plus 2. We know that m equals 3. So we can substitute that in. Now we have this exponent that we need to deal with. What is directly to the left of your exponent? It's just the 3. So don't be tempted to multiply 10 times 3 and then square that. The only thing that belongs with this exponent is what's directly to its left, which is the 3. So we have 3 squared, which would be 3 times 3, so that's 9. Now we're going to multiply, and finally we're going to add. So our answer, or final answer for number 8 is 92. Last problem for today is number 10. Here we have 13b plus 6b minus 19 plus 14c. And they tell us that b equals 15 and c equals 4/10. So the first thing that we're going to do is look for terms that have the same last name. So just one last time to reiterate what terms mean, those are what are going to be separated by our addition and subtraction signs. So we have 4 terms here. 2 of those terms have the same last name. So we have 13b plus 6b, those we can combine before we substitute. So if I have 13 B's and I have 6 B's and I add them all together, now I have 19 B's. The rest is just going to copy down because they don't have any like terms in our expression. Now we can substitute for B and C. And now we can go ahead and multiply. So here we have 19 times 15. $285. And we have 14 times 4/10. 1 decimal, so we have 1 decimal. When I do the rest of this, I'm going to go left to right because I just have addition and subtraction left. So I have 285 minus 19. $266 plus 5 6/10. So my final answer here would be 271 6/10. That's it for sections 4-2 and 4-3. There'll be one other lesson this week for you guys, and all of the work from this week is due on next Monday, which would be May 11th. And the other thing I need you to do this week is make sure you go on Get More Math at least one day. So again, essential this week will be this lesson, the second lesson, and one day of Get More Math. So I will see you guys Friday in our Zoom. If you have any questions, you can ask then. If you have a question you want to ask before then, go to your class's discussion board on Rediker. Just make sure you put what section the problem is in, the number of the problem, and then tell me what your question is, and I can help you out on that discussion board. See you guys later.